faithfully delivering value and exploring great books from around the world. Hi there, this is Sally with the Book Talk. Today, I'm going to dive into 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami, who's probably the most famous Japanese author alive today. Oh, he's been slapped with all kinds of labels, like a perennial Nobel Prize contender, running enthusiast, cat lover, kind of artsy, and so on. But hey, all those symbols and tags, they don't really help us understand him. To truly get Murakami, you gotta dig into his works, especially those packed with metaphors and riddles. Seriously, it's a must read in that sense. 1Q84 stands out big time in Murakami's lineup. It's kind of his breakthrough work, packed with his thoughts on Japan's social system. Spiritual emptiness? That's a major issue in Japanese society today. When folks feel lost, they turn to religion for comfort. But in Japan, many believe in two or three faiths, sometimes more, which just leaves them even more confused. Murakami started out as a deeply personal writer, great at capturing inner loneliness and struggles. But in 1Q84, oh boy, we see a huge leap forward. It shifts focus to observing social groups, nailing group psychology with sharp insights. He worked on this novel for almost a decade. Yeah, 910,000 characters long, making it his biggest book yet. Novel. From the title 1Q84, it's clear he's tipping his hat to George Orwell's 1984, that classic dystopian masterpiece. 1Q84 is this parallel world he dreamed up, eerily similar to our own reality. So, what's the story that unfolds in this world, huh? And why did Murakami dive into writing this kind of dystopian tale? Next, I'll break it down deeply with three key questions. First question, what's 1Q84 all about story-wise? Second question, why'd Murakami write this dystopian story exploring systems and group psychology? Third question, how does Murakami's dystopian novel stand apart from others? All right, first off, let's chat about what 1Q84 is really all about. Simply put, 1Q84 tells the story of a couple, Aomame and Tengo, who accidentally enter a parallel world. And ultimately, it's about their escape from that world. But the strange thing is, this couple only met once as kids, barely exchanged a few words, yet they're convinced they're soulmates. After that, for years, they live in separate worlds without any contact and only reunite at the story's end. Murakami's writing style alternates chapters between Aomame and Tengo, classic dual narrative. Their stories seem unrelated at first glance, but are actually woven together by countless threads, pulling them like two kites in the sky. As the plot unfolds, those threads tighten, and the distant kites gradually draw closer. First, let's explore the story of our female protagonist, Aomame. Aomame is a female assassin. One day, she takes a taxi to complete a job, but gets stuck in highway traffic. To avoid being late, she decides to climb down a 3-story emergency escape ladder. Unknowingly, this climb transports her from the 1984 world into the parallel world of 1Q84. Yet the first quarter 84 world looks almost identical to the real 1884 world. And from culture to society, it's like a copied parallel space, so Aomame continues her work without a hitch. So initially in Q84, Aomame doesn't even realize she's dimension shifted. But with her assassin's sharp instincts, she gradually senses something's wrong and spots many clues. For instance, in the real world, Japanese police carry revolvers. But in January 84, she notices they carry large automatic pistols with greater firepower and intimidation. Another example, Omame meticulously reads the paper daily. After entering 1Q84, she finds the newspaper extensively covering a major mining disaster she'd never heard of. Unfamiliar with it, she investigates further by going to the library to check historical archives. Then she finds that famous historical events like Princess Diana's 1981 wedding and the 1968 Prague Spring are completely absent from those era's newspapers. Stranger still, one night Aomame looked up and saw two moons in the 1Q84 world, one large, one small. At that moment, she almost thought she was losing her mind. After thinking it through, she realized the chaos wasn't in her head. The real world had vanished, replaced by another. As the novel puts it, like train tracks being switched, this is Aomame in the parallel world. Now 30, she's always lived a highly disciplined, minimalist life. Outwardly a massage therapist, she's secretly an assassin who uses her job to carry out hits. Her signature move during massages, finding a soft spot at the skull's base and inserting an ultra-thin needle for instant death. Victims die quickly, without pain, and the cause is nearly undetectable. Just looks like cardiac arrest. Her targets are usually assigned by an elderly woman known as the Dowager. The Dowager, in her 70s, is mysterious and inscrutable. She has a massive glass greenhouse at home filled with rare butterflies. She tenderly cares for these beautiful, fragile creatures, just like she protects abused women and children. And her way of protecting the vulnerable, sending Aomame to assassinate their abusers. The Dowager and Aomame first met at an upscale sports club. Aomame was an instructor there, teaching women self-defense while skilled in massage and acupuncture. After meeting the Dowager, she started regularly providing services at her home. And then the Dowager shared her past. Her daughter died from domestic violence, and Alame's childhood friend suffered similarly. Their shared pain forged an instant bond in avenging abusers. Thus began Amame's career as an assassin. In the identical first Q84 world, Aomame keeps taking assassination assignments from the Dowager. This time, the Dowager tasks her with assassinating a cult leader named Leader. The cult was notorious for abusing girls. Aomame flawlessly kills Leader, but now dark forces hunt her, forcing a perilous escape. Detectives are dispatched everywhere tracking Aomame's whereabouts. To evade capture, the Dowager arranges for her to hide in an apartment. At this moment, Aomame discovers a mysterious ghost haunting her. It's Tengo's father, the novel's male lead, persistently knocking at her apartment door. Aomame tries to return to the emergency ladder to find the exit from first quarter 84, only to find it's vanished and the passage is sealed shut. All right, now let's switch to the parallel storyline of the male protagonist, Tengo. Tengo is a novelist living a solitary, leisurely life. He writes novels while also working as a math tutor at a cram school, just 3 days a week. At a friend's request, Tengo agrees to help the young writer Fuka Eri revise her novel Air Chrysalis, which tells a bizarre fantasy tale. The protagonist is a 10-year-old girl. In the commune, she's tasked with guarding an important goat. When it dies due to her negligence, she's punished by being locked in a warehouse with the carcass for 10 days. But at night, beings called little people emerge through the goat's corpse to teach her how to weave air chrysalises. Air chrysalises are woven by the little people spinning threads from transparent air into cocoons that hatch human replicas. These replicas are shadows of the original person's psyche, identical in appearance but mindless, drifting without consciousness. While revising the novel, Tengo suspects Air Chrysalis might draw from Fuka Eri's own life, so he starts investigating her circle. He's stunned to learn Fuka Eri's father leads a cult called the Pioneer. He's the very target the Dowager ordered Aomame to assassinate. The leader, Tengo also hears the cult built a commune in the mountains to forge their own utopia and control members. Many female followers, including the cult leader, Fuka Eri, leader's daughter, likely endured sexual abuse. Later, violence broke out within the cult, and Fuka Eri escaped amid the chaos. Tengo speculates Air Chrysalis. This book is likely a metaphor for hidden truths within the cult. While revising the novel, Tengo unknowingly gets pulled into the 1Q84 world. As previously mentioned, the Q84 world is nearly identical to reality. In the first Q84 world, Air Chrysalis wins that year's Literary Newcomer Award. Its author Fuka Eri disappears, leaving Tengo bewildered. He buys a train ticket to visit his comatose father at the sanatorium. On the way, he reads a book called Cat City. After returning, Fuka Eri appears. That same night, they have sex, but eerily during it, Tengo sees memories of Aomame. Meanwhile, on that stormy night with thunder and lightning, Aomame completes her assassination of leader. Stranger still, afterward, Aomame discovers she's pregnant with Tengo's child. Here, the protagonists finally intersect as the novel unfolds through Tengo's memories. Turns out Tengo and Aomame were elementary classmates, both from unusual families. Aomame's parents were devout members of the Jehovah's Witnesses cult. Every Sunday, her parents dragged Aomame street preaching, while Tengo's father was an NHK fee collector. On weekends, he forced Tengo to collect fees door to door. They'd often pass each other on weekend streets, locking eyes before being pulled away to unwanted duties. Both sets of parents were obsessed with their groups, whether cult or broadcaster, prioritizing collective goals over family, sacrificing everything. They harbored intense hostility toward dissenters. The parents imposed their systems on the children, like forcing Tengo to collect fees. Amame, raised in the Witnesses, was dragged to weekend preaching and barred from Christmas, shrine visits, and other activities by doctrine. She couldn't attend school sports days or sing school or national anthems. Oh, before every lunch, Aomame had to recite a special prayer, real clear, so everyone could hear it. Both Aomame and Tengo were treated as weirdos by classmates and pushed aside. They were outsiders, full of deep insecurity, and that shared fate made the two kids secretly develop feelings for each other. They never talked, but in their hearts, they had strong affection, believing the other was the only one who understood that pain. At age 10, Aomame gathered courage and held Tengo's hand for just a quick few seconds. But in their hearts, they decided they'd only love each other for life, never anyone else. Even though they never confessed openly, and after elementary school, they never saw each other again. Their feelings grew clearer over time. Years later, Tengo uncovered the secret hidden in Fuka Eri's Air Chrysalis. The secret within this novel. Then, at the sanatorium by his father's bedside, Tengo saw Aomame's replica in the Air Chrysalis. Suspecting Aomame was tangled up in cult danger, he vowed to track her down. While assassinating leader Aomame learned from him that Tengo was also pulled into the 1Q84 world. That only made her more set on finding Tengo. While searching for Aomame, Tengo also spotted the bizarre two moons in the night sky. He realized the moons might be a key clue to finding her. So he went to a nearby children's park, sat on top of a slide, and stared at the moon. And from Aomame's hiding apartment, she could see that slide. Just like that, the two finally reunited in the first quarter 84 world and escaped the cult's hunt. Because they met and both saw the two moons, becoming fully aware. This isn't the real world, so the exit reappeared. They climbed down the escape ladder back to reality, finally free from the virtual world's nightmare, ready to spend their lives together and welcome their new baby. All right, now that we've covered 1Q84, let's chat about the second question. Why did Haruki Murakami write such a story about parallel worlds and utopias? Anyone familiar with Haruki Murakami knows he's an incredibly hardworking and disciplined novelist, pumping out new works almost every year. But there's one exception. The 7 years after the Tokyo subway sarin attack, in March 1995, a shocking terrorist attack rocked Tokyo's subway system, horrifying the world. The attack was orchestrated by a Japanese cult, Aum Shinrikyo, led by Shoko Asahara, who had followers release sarin gas in the subway, killing 13 people, injuring over 5,500, and throwing Tokyo's transport into chaos. Citizens were plunged into extreme panic. Murakami was stunned by this event. He paused his strict writing routine to dive into investigating it. He wanted to understand the motives of the cult members who released the gas. What kind of force was driving them? In talks with the perpetrators, Murakami gradually noticed they weren't particularly evil or stupid. Their common trait was deep dissatisfaction with the world, and they expressed it by trying to separate themselves from others, eliminate dissenters, and create their own utopia. To achieve this, they'd stop at nothing. The investigation's findings deeply influenced Murakami's thoughts on novel writing and changed his worldview. Might humans create utopias for themselves? And how do they get controlled by this seemingly noble goal, trapping themselves in their own cages? He channeled these thoughts into 1Q84, crafting a parallel world eerily similar to the real 1984. Murakami once described this world as, I believe there's another subterranean world. It's easy to find an entrance, but hard to find an exit. Many religious leaders freely offer an entrance, but they won't provide an exit because they want followers trapped. In the world of Aum Shinrikyo, it's closed off. As long as believers keep faith, they can cling to this false happiness. But they also lose the most precious part of their soul because they give up feeling and thinking for themselves, blindly obeying doctrines and principles. Murakami said they handed over their souls. In the novel, the cult pioneer declares this world evil, and followers seek to create their own pure land. So they organize labor communally, self-sufficiently, but soon this collective life corrupts. To gain authority and control, cult leaders start gathering their followers in closed compounds through intimidation and other means, forcing them to live together long-term, binding interests, and forbidding departure. The church also develops evil religious rituals like demanding female followers have sex with the leader, even targeting young girls. These children suffer sexual abuse within the group, physically and mentally devastated. 1Q84 is such a constructed, corrupted utopia where the leader brainwashes followers completely on life and worldviews. He tells people the real world is ugly and flawed, so they must strive for an imagined perfect world. That is where your life's true value lies. For this, they can commit evil and murder. Those fanatical followers chasing an illusory dream might be the weak or hurt, lost souls in real life, unable to find spiritual refuge or life's meaning. And such a man-made utopian world provides them with a sense of belonging. Because of this false belonging, followers willingly become tools and puppets, offering money, freedom, even life to the leader. They commit evil yet believe they are doing good. They dream yet think themselves more awake than others. This is why Haruki Murakami wrote this novel. Murakami said, such things sound absurd, but they've never ceased on Earth for millennia. No matter how beautiful these systems claim their utopias to be, Murakami wants people to realize they are illusory. Once deceived by such false security, it's easy to lose independent thinking, surrendering to a cold rule, committing evil under its control without awareness. As a novelist, Murakami cleverly wraps these thoughts in metaphors for a dystopian narrative. The earliest proposer of utopia was Plato. The word means no place, similar to the Chinese legend of Peach Blossom Spring. Utopia is humanity's imagined ideal society with no private ownership, no crime or suffering, and absolute equality for all. However, rushing to materialize this illusory utopian vision turns it into its opposite. The once beautiful ideal becomes a suffocating cage, a tool for those with ulterior motives to enslave and imprison minds. Thus, dystopian literature emerged. This genre focuses on critiquing worlds that appear rigorous and perfect outwardly, but are internally filled with oppressive control, evil, and persecution. Through vivid depictions of these so-called utopias, dystopian literature reveals how extreme perfectionism, creates utterly despairing societies. Classics of this genre include George Orwell's 1984, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and Yevgeny Zamyatin's We, among others. So how does Murakami's dystopian novel differ from earlier ones? First, in world building, Haruki Murakami creates not a fully fictional utopia, but a parallel world strikingly similar to reality. Traditional dystopian novels often construct entirely alien worlds. People know it's unreal, yet see reflections of our world in its structure. Orwell's 1984 exemplifies this. Published in 1949, it depicts a terrifying future under totalitarian rule. It prophesied that by 1984, the world would split into three warring superstates: Eurasia, Oceania, and East Asia, each under centralized rule, with Oceania's unseen yet only present leader, Big Brother. In the novel, the evil Big Brother controls government and military. Every word, action, and even thought is monitored by his regime. Reading such a novel feels like a hopeless wake-up call. 1Q84, however, is different. It's a parallel world, eerily similar to reality. Those entering it don't even sense the world dash track switch. It's profoundly deceptive. People slip into this world unknowingly. Escaping isn't impossible, but the exit is super hard to find. It only opens when you've got certain things: clear thinking, fierce resistance, and a relentless pursuit of truth. That's the key takeaway. In Murakami's symbolic design of the two moons, leader of the cult Pioneer, before dying he told Aomame, "The twin moons in the sky mean the world's tracks have switched. This isn't the real 1984 anymore, but 1Q84. If you notice the two moons, you'd sense something's off. But the scary part, even such an obvious sign isn't noticed by everyone." In other words, Murakami believes few realize they're trapped in systemic cages, or that their so-called perfect world is an illusion. The parallel world setup has a touch of magic, yet feels closer to reality. Murakami warns, utopias aren't just fiction or distant nightmares. They're already happening right around us. He suggests every corner of this world could hide a trap, a secret entrance. Many fall in unknowingly. Compared to blatant oppression, it's way more deceptive. Unlike older dystopian novels drowning in total darkness and despair, Murakami's parallel world leaves room for hope. At the story's end, Aomame and Tengo leave 1Q84 hand in hand, standing on real Earth, with a new life growing inside her. Another reason Murakami used this parallel world approach. Evil utopias aren't just governments or religions. They could be corporations, even nonprofits. This stems from Murakami's observations of Japan's social systems. Take the protagonist, Aomame's parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, blindly believing rigid doctrines. To spread their faith, doctrine required clear prayer recitals before lunch, audible to others. Aomame was forced to comply, alienating her from classmates. As a child, Aomama was deeply tormented and filled with insecurity. So she understood better than anyone how terrifying these utopian disguised systems could be. That's why, after hearing about the pioneer cult from the Dowager, she risked everything to assassinate its leader. The system that scarred Tengo was his father's company, NHK. NHK Broadcasting. Tengo's father was an NHK fee collector. He valued this big corporate job so much that every weekend he'd drag his son door to door, demanding payment with self-righteousness. It gave him a power rush. So he became addicted, sacrificing not just himself, but Tengo's childhood, making Tengo nauseous every weekend. And all this just because Tengo's father found power, vanity, and life's purpose in it. Even on his deathbed, his soul struggled free to haunt Aomame's door, endlessly knocking to collect fees from Tengo. His father's life was drained by this endless knocking and collecting, absurd beyond words. Murakami expanded dystopian literature's scope, revealing Japan's deep-rooted systemic issues with sharp insight. When people unconditionally obey collective culture, sacrificing family and freedom, or entrust life's value to some group without ever examining their own worth. They might already be in first quarter 84 without knowing it. Finally, Murakami pushed further, targeting the human heart itself. He pointed out, though utopias exist externally, their deepest source is within our minds. Today, it's easy to spot external oppression, like opposing tyrannical governments or cults. But systemic traps within groups are harder to prevent or control. They stem from human selfishness, vanity, and escapism. Murakami brilliantly illustrates this through the little people. The little people spin threads from air to weave cocoons. When a cocoon splits, a replica is born. This replica looks identical to the original, but is actually an alienated version. Mindless as puppets, the little people embody ideology, not some external evil, but something embedded in every mind. Oh, Aum Shinrikyo is exactly that kind of ideological control. Those followers who obeyed Shoko Asahara's evil plan to plant sarin gas in the subway. They're not themselves anymore. They're puppets, replicas controlled by that evil utopia. Sometimes those under control aren't totally oblivious. They're just trapped so deep they've lost all power to break free. In single Q84, leader of the pioneer cult claims to hear God's voice. With this high-sounding excuse, he sexually abuses young girls. Many victims suffer terribly, yet their parents happily hand over their daughters. They don't feel guilty at all. They think it's the ultimate honor. Oh, they've lost their souls and identities. When leader finds out Aomame is going to assassinate him, he doesn't resist or get scared. No, he seems relieved, almost eager. Part of it is because he knows that even after his death, Q84 will live on. It's not some outside power anymore. It's inside the hearts of those soulless followers. On the flip side, even leaders trapped by ideology. He knows he's deeply sinful, but, he's got no strength or guts to escape, so he just watches himself drown, fully aware. So, to get out of utopia, it's not enough to just realize where you are. You got to have the skill and guts to ditch that hazy self and start fresh. And that courage, it comes from deep inside every one of us. Okay, that's it for our dive into 1Q84. Book notes are under the audio track. Catch you tomorrow.